Motor's been running since 68, riding the crazy train, knocking down gates. Yeah, we were born to be wild. It's my life, rocking as an 80s child. Our Beatles were leopards and snakes. Youth go wild, falling into Sunset Strip. I wanna rock, feel the noise. Hey, 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 rock the life.
Welcome to Rock the Life, a podcast for fans by fans. I'm Katya.
I'm Amy, and today we have, all of our guests have been very special, but today we have somebody that you might know. So we're very excited to let you in on this interview and sharing fan experiences with this gentleman. He is formerly or originally the singer from Trixter, releasing his own music, which we can't wait to share with you.
And from Trixter, I'd say they were a band from New Jersey that hit it really big in the late 80s and the 90s with such songs as One in a Million, Give It to Me Good. And they've been putting out music for decades, and some of the band members are still touring.
Yep.
But Pete is also now a solo artist.
I love it. And a big part of our story, since numerous of our previous podcasts reference the Blood, Sweat, and Beers tour, which Trixter was a part of, and we'll talk a little bit about. So that's fun. And, you know, guys, with all of that, here's Pete. Hi, Pete. Welcome to Rock the Life. Thank you for joining us today. How's your Saturday morning going so far for you?
Really good. Did a little bit of laundry so far. Let's see.
Saturday morning.
Went out. Yes. Yeah, that's about it so far. A little coffee, a little laundry. Who knows? The day is young.
Okay.
Yeah. This is actually my mug that Katsi and I saw each other recently, and I have my Italy mug that she brought me as a gift from.
Oh, is that what it is?
When we got together, yeah, it's my Italy mug.
This is my Hoboken mug.
Okay.
Oh,
Hometown. There we go.
nice. That's awesome. That's great.
Take the boy out of Jersey, but
You can't take the jersey out of the boy. Yep.
Right.
okay. So, Pete, as you know, we're a podcast by fans for fans. We're going to go into your inspirations in your musical, like who got you into music. So, if I were to ask you, what was the first music that you remember listening to that really like caught your attention?
I think consciously that happened with me with a band called Judas Priest. So, yeah, and it's funny because that was like the first music where it was like my own music. It wasn't what my parents listened to. And it wasn't something that I was kind of, I don't want to say forced to listen to, but when you're a kid in the back of the car, you kind of, you hear whatever's on the radio. But I got first kind of introduced to like Judas Priest. I was like, yeah, all right, I like this. This is cool. And then I think from there it was Van Halen. I heard Unchained for the first time, and I was like, what is this? So I was into music, but I never had thought about being a musician, never had thought about any of that. It was not even on my radar. So what happened was eventually I had met Steve Brown, heard him playing guitar over the phone, and he was a little kid at that point. And I said, what are you listening to? He's like, oh, I'm playing guitar. I'm like, shut up, kid. What are you listening to? He's like, no, it's really me. I'm playing guitar. I'm like, okay. He's like, you got to come check it out. So I'm like, I'm going to check out this kid playing guitar. So I went over his house, and sure enough, he's this little shrimp kid, and he's got this gigantic guitar, and he plays like nobody's business. And I was like, what the hell is happening here? So I go, you got a band? He's like, yeah, I got a band. I'm like, well, who's in it? Well, me and one guy down the street, but it's kind of it for now. Why, you want to be in the band? I'm like, I don't play anything. I don't do anything. He's like, you want to be our singer? And I was like, yeah, I do. Never had sang in my life, never had tried. I don't know what made me say yes, but I did.
How old were you?
I was 17.
Awesome.
I was 17, and he had a kind of like a drummer lined up at that point. So before what people see as Trixter, from what people know as Trixter, there was a different drummer and there was a different bass player. So at that time, it was the four of us. We did a couple of shows, and then it kind of dissolved, and then we kind of revamped it and started doing originals, and we got Gus and we got PJ, and then that's kind of how it went. But musically, that's what kind of started me off. And then as I was older and I started hearing older songs like the Eagles and Elton John and all these 70s songs, and I immediately knew the words in my head. I go, how the hell do I know these words? And it was from sitting in the back of the family Trixter, and it was beating into your head. But those are great songs, you know? And I was like, man, I love this music so much. So that's kind of how it started for me musically.
And around that time, because, okay, yeah, being from New Jersey, but what concerts did you see that inspired you too? Was there any concerts that like really stood out to you at a young age too?
My very first concert was Van Halen. It was in 1982. I think it was 1980. I think it was the Diver Down tour. That was my very first show. I was still in high school. We went and saw that, and then it was just like
David Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah, and then I was just like, oh yeah. So I already had like, this is amazing. And then, you know, some kid comes up to me and says, you want to be in my band? I'm like, okay, now something's happening here.
David Lee Roth is quite an example for a frontman.
Here's something interesting, because David Lee Roth, yeah, I mean, the epitome of like the frontman. You know, I know guys I know guys who are singers, like very well-known singers, different genres of music that were never really Van Halen fans. And then they saw like old footage of like Roth from like 78 and 79. And they're like, oh, now I get it. But the funny thing is, Roth stole a lot of his stuff from a guy named Jim Dandy, who was in a band called Black Oak, Arkansas. So, and that's out there. You can research that. That's like, when you go back and look at this guy, you're like, okay, I see it. But there's a cool story there, because Trixter was touring, I don't know when this was, 92, 93, and we were in Memphis, and we had a night off, and, you know, of course, we're like, oh, let's go out to the local bar. There's a band playing, you know, let's just go be like, you know, regular schmucks like we are, and we'll go to the bar. So we get to the bar, we walk in, there's a band playing, people are kind of recognize who we are, you know, so we walk up to the bartender, hey, you order a drink. By a guy goes, hey, you know what? We're like, what? He goes, see that guy sitting over there at that table? Yeah, that's Jim Dandy. I go, are you serious? He goes, yeah. I go, I'm going over that table.
Nice.
Go over it. No lie. I've never seen this before. You always see this in movies. The guy is sitting at a table by himself with an entire bottle of Jack Daniels.
Oh man.
Where am I? What is happening right now, right? So a couple of us sit down, we start talking, blah, blah, blah. He's super laid back. I don't even know how old he was then. And we're just, you know, bullshitting. And somebody comes up and goes, hey, you guys want to get up and jam? And we're like, oh, shit, okay. Hey, Jim, you want to get up and jam? He's like, all right. I was like, this is insane. So we get up there. We have no idea what we're doing. Call him up. He comes up. I go, what do you want to do? He goes, well, I don't want to do any cover songs, and I don't want to do none of mine. And I was like, that leaves pretty much. That's nothing. All right. So we just started jamming some blues thing, and he went off. It was crazy. It was an insane moment for me, because I was such a huge Roth fan, and that's the guy that Roth took all his stuff from. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you know, Pete, you almost went into my next question, because I was going to say, so Amy and I met you on the Blood, Sweat, and Beers tour, like way back when. So I was going to ask if you have a favorite memory from that tour, but that might have covered it. So do you have any other favorite memories from that tour?
Oh, man. It was, oh, man. You know, a lot of that tour is a blur, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Boy, yeah. I mean,
I can only imagine that.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah.
group you were out with.
we thought we knew how to party until we met the guys in Warrant.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I remember one gig. I had a couple of buddies out on the road with us at that point, and we had partied all night, and those guys just, man. And I remember right before Warrant was supposed to get on, Joey Allen was laying on the floor on his back. His guitar, he was like that hungover. Like they're just about to start their show and he cannot get up. The guitar tech comes over to him, lays his guitar over him, puts the strap over him. They had this intro thing. As soon as that drum roll starts, he sat up like a whoop and just ran right out there. It was amazing. That was pretty cool. There was so many. Yeah. Oh, that was a lot of fun.
Okay, and then so I want to say, of all the bands you've toured with and all the people, who do you consider more of a mentor, or who did you learn the most from, besides parting from Warrant?
Oh, yeah, that was that way. Yeah. That was a lesson right there. Really, probably still that tour. I mean, I think that was still my favorite tour because all the bands were close. We toured the Scorpions; those guys were great, but we weren't like hanging out together after. It was just like, we did the show, everyone was cordial, have a great day, blah blah blah. We moved on. With Poison, we did a short run with them. They were great. Kind of the same thing with Kiss. They were really very, like Paul Stanley. I don't even think I said hello to him once. Gene was pretty cool, but we were like the maniacs on that tour. We were the ones having the party in our dressing room, and all the girls were in there, and it was like girls that they wanted to talk to, and they were in our dressing room, and it was
Oh no.
oh boy.
It was the 90s. Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, so now let's fast forward a bit. How has your music taste changed?
It really hasn't. I mean, honestly, well, it has, I guess. I don't know. You see, I've always listened to all types of music. I was never, other than one period in my life where I was like, this is my own music and this is it. Then I started going, wait a minute, how do I know this song? How do I know this song? And all these 70s songs and the Eagles and Cheap Trick and all this other stuff. I loved all that music. And I've always listened to new things. I never was narrow-minded, so to speak. I know a lot of guys from back in the day, guys my age, who are still like, there's no good music anymore. I'm like, no, that is not true. There's a lot of good music. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of really good music out there right now. My girlfriend actually turns me on to a lot of music, which is pretty cool. So I'm influenced by a lot. And, a lot of things I'm hearing today are inspiring me to get creative.
Can you name some of the people that are inspiring you now?
Yeah, there's a band that we've kind of been listening to called Kokomo. I think they're from France. Really cool. There's a band, actually, a good friend of mine works for a band called The Struts. Have you heard of The Struts?
Yes.
Struts are really cool. There's a band that was opening for The Struts recently called Barnes Courtney.
I'll have to look them up.
Yeah,
so cool. Really cool music. And then there's artists like this guy Kaleo. Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
Familiar.
Really good.
Yeah.
Really good stuff. There's so much good stuff out there.
No, because that's what I want to hit up for you. Like, what should I be listening to right now too? But one thing we should be listening to is your new single, "Save Me." Tell us about it. Tell us about the song and how it came about.
All right, "Save Me" was written or born in a jam session. Years and years ago, friends and I would go to somebody's house, basement, garage, back in Jersey, and we would just jam. One guy would start playing something, and everybody would just listen and then come in, and it would just kind of form. And there was a lot of really cool things that came out of those jams. So fast forward to like 2017. Yes. Yeah. So at my last house, I would always have these barbecue pool parties, and I had a full jam room in my house. I had a full drum set, 2 guitar rigs, bass rig, a PA. And, most of my friends that would come over were musicians. So party would wind down, a lot of people would leave, and then, usually the same 4 guys would get in there, and we would just start just same thing, just real organic stuff. And I would always just sit there and go, okay, that sounds cool. Take my phone, put it in the back of the room, record.
Yeah.
So, and it was typically me, Mark Scott, who from Trixter, my buddy Jordan Ziff. Jordan Ziff was in a brief stint with Raitt, played guitar for Marty Friedman, solo artist, pretty well-known guy, a guitar player, phenomenal guitar player, great singer, great songwriter. And then another good buddy of ours, this guy Jacob Goldberg, who was in a band with Jordan when they were like 14 or 15 called Age of Evil, I think it was called. And they had a record out and did some touring. So it was usually the four of us, and we would just sit around and just cool stuff, whatever. It was no direction, no nothing. So that song Save Me kind of started there. And when I listened back to it on my phone the next day after all the cobwebs cleared out, I was like, this is cool, man. I'm like, let's kind of make something up. So we kind of came up with a recipe, parts and everything else. And I go, this is good enough to record. So we went to another buddy's place who had a full drum room. We recorded the drums. Jordan and Jacob did all the bass and guitars at Jordan's place. It was time for me to come up with some melodies and lyrics. I didn't have anything. Usually I kind of have something. I didn't have anything. So I started coming up with some melodies. And lyrically, sometimes if I come up with a melody, it's almost more times than not, there's a lyric in there. For whatever reason, it's just whatever comes out of my mouth. It's whatever sings best. Okay, so some words don't sing well, even though it's kind of what you want to say there, they just don't sing well. So it's kind of whatever comes out of my mouth, and sometimes there's words there. So when that happens, I always go, I have to build around that. That came out for a reason. Mm-hmm. So that chorus, Save Me, that kind of started building right there. So I was like, okay, I got to build around this. So this is right around the same time when Chris Cornell had died. And that hit me a lot harder than I expected to, because I was never really a huge Soundgarden guy or an Audio Slave guy. I've always liked his solo stuff. A great singer, great storyteller, great lyricist, great musician. And I had a friend that worked for Soundgarden at that time, and I'd reached out to him and I said, what happened, man? Did you see anything different that night? And he says, dude, same as usual. Show got done, walked him off the stage, down the stairs, put him in his limo. See you tomorrow, boss. And then we all know what happened.
Shocked. Yeah.
So, and then I heard, he was talking to his wife on the phone the night before, and, tell the kids good night and everything. So he's a dad, he's a husband. So it kind of hit me pretty hard. And, nobody saw what he was going through. Like, must have been in a massively dark place. Yep. But to be able to pull it off for nobody to see it.
Right.
So
on tour.
Yeah. Like, thousands and thousands of people adoring you. And then you go back to your room and it's a huge come down. That's a massive come down.
Yeah.
So, if you can't handle that correctly, obviously there was more going on there, but I'm assuming that's part of it. So anyway, that's where the words came from. That was all about me kind of like trying to think of what it was like for him that last night or so. So that's where that song came from. And then for the video, I never had planned on doing a video. I thought, it's a pretty dark subject. Depression it's a serious, serious thing. But I just didn't want to, initially I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to make this about Chris Cornell. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to upset anybody in that camp or his fan base. So I was just like, I am not doing this. We're going to completely left field from this. My girlfriend Amy had an idea of like, hey, why don't you make it about like a person who enjoys music and is like lip syncing, dancing around the house and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, you're going to be that person. And she's like,
that was my question, who that was. Okay, fantastic. Okay.
I'm like, you're going to be that person. And it kind of worked out great because she had never aspired to do anything like that. And it's totally kind of the opposite of her. So it was good for both of us. So
Oh,
yeah, that's
great.
her. That's me literally with my phone recording it.
You filmed it.
I filmed it. I edited the whole video as bad or as good as it seems. Yeah, that was all just the two of us on, Friday
Oh,
and Saturday nights.
okay.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But and I'm actually going to like touch a bit the timeliness of when we're recording this is, listening to Save Me in this last week, we also had musician Liam Payne die in, just watching the fan base and what went through him. And yeah, that one I was like, especially we have kids that were really One Direction fans too. And that one I've been thinking about too. And so listening to your song with it was,
Yeah.
yeah, a
Yeah.
lot going on with you.
It's lyrically built around Chris Cornell, but that, that happens to a lot of people. Look
Yeah.
at Chester Bennington, same thing
Right afterward.
before he went home, he was here in Sedona having a great time, taking pictures with his family, and then went home to his beautiful house, his beautiful family. And I have another good friend who is
It's
super close with Chester. They were in a band together years ago. He's an Arizona guy. They owned a business together. And I asked him, did you see any of this coming? And they were actually rehearsing to revive their old band. It's called Gray Days. Check them out. They're really cool too. They've got a couple of records out. And he said, didn't see a thing, Pete. Did not see that coming. So that's just so scary.
No, it is.
Yeah.
No, this is okay. So, I'm going to move a bit. Amy and I, we were massive music fans. And then there was a definite period of time where like family, career, kids, and we really lost our passion for music. Now, I know you've been in Trixter on and off, and there's also been how much of a gap between the last time you put out music and until this year?
Really? I mean, whenever the last Trixter record was, what was that, 2015?
15, yeah.
2015. And I had never sat down and thought I'm going to put music out. I just pretty much assumed that I wasn't going to. I mean, I think like you guys, like you said, you're into music, but things get in the way and everything else. And even with musicians, sometimes the switch gets turned off, but more times than not, it always gets turned back on at some point. It just comes back around. So the first song I put out this year at the end of May was called Around Again.
Yes.
And that was an idea that I've had for probably almost 8 or 9 years. And I had met a guy here in Arizona, big musician, Nashville session guy, Nashville touring guy, super well-rounded musician. I mean, phenomenal. And I ran into him at a bar, and he said, "Hey, man," he goes, "I heard you got a lot of song ideas kicking around." And I go, "Yeah, where'd you hear that from?" He goes, "Oh, from a couple of mutual buddies." He goes, "Hey, man, we talk easy. We should get together and try to see if we could put together some of this music." And I was like, "Okay." I go, "Yeah, what the heck? I'm going to throw this guy this idea that I've had." It was like a verse and a chorus, and just me playing my acoustic, humming some melody into my phone, and I sent it to him. And he sent me back pretty much an A to Z structure and a whole song. And I was like, okay.
You're not getting out of this. You're going to do music.
This guy is serious. So we built that song, and we had it more, it's kind of more of like a country song because he could play everything, slide guitar, lap steel, all this stuff. This guy's name's Rooster. And
Fantastic.
yeah, he used to be known for this giant mohawk. And he's actually a shredder, but he plays country music. He plays chicken pick and all that stuff. So we had the structure. He came over. He goes, "Let's do the vocals." So I had some lyrics, got my vocals ready, and we start recording it. And he turns and he looks at me and goes, "This is a rock song. This is a rock vocal." And I was like,
You're like...
"Is it?" And he's like, "I got to redo everything." I was like, "Okay, here we go, buddy." So we kind of redid it to more of a rock song, and he was like, "Let's put this song out there and see who wants to cut it." That was our thought process. So I was like, okay, I try to throw it out there to a couple different people. "Oh, it's a good song. Yeah, I don't know, And I was kind of like, all right, so we got a dead end there. So he goes, "Why don't you just release it yourself?" And I go, "All right, maybe I'll do that. Okay, no expectations. I'll release it myself." So I start putting together my game plan, hired up a marketing lady. And then she goes, you know anybody, who has like a presence on radio, this, that, and the other thing? I go, yeah, I know Eddie Trunk. I've hung around him enough times in Jersey and, in the hotels after these festivals that we were doing with Trixter. And I don't have his phone number. So I reached out to PJ Farley and I go, hey, man, you got Eddie Trunk's email? He goes, no. He's like, I got his phone number. Just text him. So I'm like, okay. I'm like really reluctantly doing this because, I feel weird. Not asking for a favor, but I'm kind of asking for a favor. So I text him, I'm like, hey, man, long time no here. Hey, I got this new song. I want you to check it out. So he goes, okay. He goes, hey, Pete, long time, no talk and everything else. He goes, wow, you're getting back into the music business. You're a very brave man. I go, okay. So
That's
I sent him the song. Yeah. He goes, no promises. Sent him the song and he got back to me. He goes, man, I was not expecting this. He goes, this is really good. He goes, send me a WAV file of the song. And he goes, no promises, but I'll see maybe if I can play this on my Hair Nation show. I'm like, well, from Hair Nation music. But sure enough, he plays it. And people are starting to reach out to me. All of a sudden, the video's getting some hits and it's starting to get some plays. So I'm like, okay, like people are like accepting of this. They're like, they kind of remember me. So I'm like, this is pretty cool. So we released that song and then I have already have Save Me's already been recorded. So Save Me was recorded in 2019.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, now I got to put this song up because I've already got this song. People were not expecting around again because it was, they liked it. They really did like it. Everyone really liked it, but they were expecting, I think, something more rock. And I'm glad they liked around again. So I go, well, Save Me is more rock, that's for sure. So that's why I was like, okay, I'm going to release this song because it's done. So I did that. Definitely more rock. I don't think it's a Trixter song, but it's definitely more rock. I mean, lyrically, I could not write like we were writing back then anyway. So I'm
different time.
We've all grown up.
For sure.
Different stage. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, it's weird because it's weird to sing those lyrics from back then too. At some point, you're like, kind of like, okay.
Did they age it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Pete, do you have some more music lined up, like up your sleeve that you're going to release?
Nothing that is ready. There are ideas that are currently being worked on. So now that I've got Save Me out there and I'm kind of wrapping up my whole push of that.
I have to tell you, that bass line, that's the first thing, I was like, oh, this is new. What's this? And I clicked that button and I was like, the bass line got me and it lasted through the whole song. So I love that song, start to finish. But man, that opening bass line was like, oh, it kind of got me excited. It got me really
Amy,
excited.
Could that be because you have a thing for bass players?
Yep. You might be biased.
She's married to one, so that's why I'm totally laughing about that.
Well, Clay plays guitar, but he does, of course. I feel like almost every guitar player can play bass, but yeah.
Don't say that to a bass player. Oh,
I know.
You're going to offend them.
Delete.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Anyway, that's funny.
No, I was going to ask. So, do you plan to tour at all, or to take this music on the road, or videos? I mean, there's a whole new way of releasing music to the world now. Okay.
A couple people asked me that. I don't have any plans to do that.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
I don't know if something arrived that was.
Okay.
It's like that never say never, but it's not in the books. It's not currently in the cards.
I've always been that person to say that, never say never, because you just don't know. We all change, right? I mean, we do stuff now that we thought of, 10 years ago. I would never do that. Well, here you are, buddy.
Yep.
So never say never. I don't have plans right as of right now, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to look out and follow you. We're going to see. We're hoping that comes up.
So, in regards to our podcast being for fans by fans, do you have a favorite experience that you can share about someone that you've met along this amazing path that you've walked to date?
Yeah, you know what? And what you guys do is so cool. It's so cool. It's so different. And props to you guys for doing that.
Thanks.
Musicians are the ultimate fans because none of us are doing what we do without have been a fan first and foremost. We're huge fans. So, you know, I'm not like going to shows and going, oh, I got to meet this guy, meet, you know, so and so forth. But that being said, when I get around the right person that has influenced me, I do try to meet them because I've always had this theory, like, if I'm going to shake hands with this person and I know they've worked with that person and so on and so forth, I'm kind of shaking hands with everybody that they've touched.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's a connection. It's a connection.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel obligated sometimes to do that. Not very often. There's times where I've kind of walked away from meeting people and I wish I had met them backstage. I forget what show it was at. And Robin Zander was there from Cheap Trick. And he was just standing there talking to a couple people. And I started walking that way and I was like, what am I going to say to him? I mean, like one of my favorite singers in the world. He's just going to go, who are you? And I'm going to like, okay, I'm out of here. So I should have done that. I didn't go say something to him. Funny story. When Trixter was recording our first, I think the record was already done. And Steve and I were in LA for maybe promotion stuff. We played our first ever MTV Rock and Jock softball game. We were invited. Our record wasn't out yet, so nobody knew who we were. But
Okay.
we got the in. We were on the team. You know, I was on the team with so many people, Heather Locklear and, you know, Neil Giraldo and Anthony Kiedis and I don't know. It was all these people, like, you know, and nobody knew who we were. I was running out to, I was at shortstop. I was playing shortstop, and Anthony Kiedis was running out to left field. And he was running by me, and I go, hey, I'm Pete from Trixer. And he goes, who? And I go, good talk. I'll see you later. So maybe that scarred me, and that's why I didn't want to say something to Robin Zander.
But who have you met that's really inspired you, or who has been one of your inspirations that you've met?
So I've always loved Bonnie Raitt. Bonnie Raitt was interesting to me because she's phenomenal singer, phenomenal guitar player, slide guitar player. There's not that many great women's slide guitar players, but she is just so good. So I knew that she had been around since the 70s. She had played with everybody, with the Stevie Ray Vaughns and a lot of 70s icons and Delbert McClinton and all these people. She used to be a huge partier, like to the point where, like, you know, she didn't even know what she was doing. Bonnie Raitt actually went to Harvard, believe it or not.
That I didn't
She
know.
went to Harvard
Wow.
and she dropped out to be a musician.
Wow.
So that's pretty crazy, right? Fast forward, I think this was 90, 94, 95 maybe. A buddy of mine goes, hey, I got tickets to this Bonnie Raitt show in Jersey. Do you want to go? And I was like, yeah, of course. And he's like, we got VIP passes, so we're gonna go to like a meet and greet. I'm in, man. I'm in. Let's do this. So it was before the show. And we go backstage, and there's a bunch of people lined up, and you know, there's the two of us there with long hair standing there, and we're kind of at the end of the line, and I can hear her voice from around the corner. She has this smoky, airy voice when she talks, and I could hear her talking. Oh, there she comes, right? So we're standing there, and she comes walking around the corner. I'm just looking at her like, okay. And she's just beelines for me and him, bypasses everybody. And I'm like, what is happening right now? She walks up to us, shakes her hand. She's looking at us. She goes, wow, look at you two. She goes, too bad for you guys. She goes, Cher was supposed to be here. You guys could have got lucky. And I was like, what is happening right now?
Wait, that's when Cher was dating Richie Sambora, wasn't it?
I was speechless. Not one
She's
word
like,
came out, I don't
look at
think.
these. She's like, oh my gosh, I gotta go see the Rockers. Look at this. That's awesome.
Just completely hit me with a hammer. And I was just like, okay.
That's so cute. Well, because I'd have to say, it's like tables turned, right? Back to like what it was back in the 90s. Where I love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, she completely just stopped me in my tracks. And I don't even know what I said. I had to have said something. And then that was it. And I was like, okay, I just blew it right there. No picture, no nothing. Oh no, there was a picture. No, there was a picture. There was a picture.
Okay.
Oh my God, I got to see if I can get that picture.
Yeah.
Please,
There was a picture.
that would be awesome.
That's so funny.
But was it a great show?
Probably.
Okay.
No, I mean,
I can't tell you.
I mean,
It sounds just like us, Katya. It sounds so many of our stories are.
yeah, and again, I'm sure I shook her hand. I know I did, and she has ties to so many different incredible musicians. I mean, she's a folk, bluesy R&B singer, but there's old pictures of her out there with David Lee Roth and Stevie Nicks. You got to search that up.
She crossed over quite a few genres.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
So, and it kind of ties into, like I said, mentioned Stevie Ray Vaughan. I was a huge Stevie Ray Vaughan guy. I mean, huge. Just I kind of really went deep into like what he was about and how he grew up and, and how did this guy, get so deep into blues, and when he played it and sang it was so believable. And even like serious blues black artists were like, man, this guy is how did
legit.
He should be black, right? I mean, basically,
Yeah.
So that was a connection for me to him through her. But also, there was a band that came out in 1992 called the Archangels.
Okay. Oh, look at that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So,
awesome.
Stevie died in 1990, and I had just kind of discovered him like the year before. And he died in 1990, and he had a band called Stevie Ray Vaughan and the Double Trouble. Double Trouble was Chris Layton on drums and Tommy Shannon on bass. So those two guys, rhythm section, joined this new group in 92 called the Archangels. And Archangels was those two guys, a guy named Charlie Sexton. Charlie Sexton was a solo artist, and he had a hit in 1985 called Beat So Lonely. He was 16 years old.
Wow.
16 years old, and he had a hit. He was like the new wave David Bowie, dark Elvis Pompadour.
Yeah.
And I remember the song in 85. Wasn't, I wasn't like too into it, but I remember the song was like a top 20 hit, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And never heard of him again. And he was in this band. Great singer. Great. No, not a lot of people know. Phenomenal guitar player. And there was this other guy, Doyle Bramhill Jr. And the idea of the band was really cool because they had two lead singers in this band, and they would trade off from verse to verse, or one guy would sing an entire song and the other guy would sing just backups and so on. But the songs were really cool. And I don't know where I heard the record on a radio station. I was like, oh my God, these guys are so badass. And I was like, oh my God, they got the rhythm section from Stevie's band. So Doyle Bramhill, I'm like, well, I don't know who this guy is. He's a lefty guitar player. He plays lefty, but he plays upside down, which makes no sense because he's not that old. So like years ago, when lefty guitar players would learn how to play, there were no lefty guitars. So they would take a right-handed guitar and go, whoop, but the strings were upside down at that point. So then they would learn backwards. So that's how he plays, which doesn't make sense because he's probably my age. They had lefty guitars, but I think there was a design behind it, because a lot of these lefty players that play upside down, meaning the low E is not on top of the guitar, it's on the bottom, and everything's reversed. It sounds different. To a lot of people, they say something about it sounds different. So I think it was by design that he learned that way. His father was a musician, drummer. He wrote songs with Stevie Ray Vaughan. They all lived in a band house. Now, this guy was probably a teenager living in a band house with his dad and Stevie Ray Vaughan and other guys. So it's like a really organic vibe. And he was a teenager. He got up and played with Stevie a couple times.
Wow.
So I started looking into him, and just such a cool singer. His voice is like, whoa, man. And he used to have really long hair, always in a braid or a ponytail. But that band was so cool. And I've got their T-shirts if they had one, and never got to see them play.
I was going to ask you that too.
Yeah, never got to see them play.
Never saw them.
No,
Okay.
actually, it's a funny thing. I have a Stevie Ray Vaughan denim jacket, and I got it from a girl when we were on tour in '91, and she came up to the bus, and I saw the jacket. I was like, jacket. She's like, I got this at a Stevie Ray Vaughan show, and he, signed it or something like that. It was kind of barely there. And I was like, how much you want for that jacket? She's like, well, I forgot how much. It was a couple things. It was more than just money. It was like a photo and a signature. I think I had to make her breakfast. I got to make her, like, I had to grill a cheeseburger for her or something. It was a lot. It was like, I had to do like I had to do the moonwalk. So, but anyway, I got the jacket, and I still got the jacket.
I was going to ask, you still have, I
still got the jacket. So, there was a lot going on there, So, and then Doyle went on to, still plays with Eric Clapton. He did a tour with Roger Waters, maybe a couple tours with Roger Waters, playing all Pink Floyd stuff. Was in Sheryl Crow's band for a while, was dating Sheryl Crow. Dated some actress, what's her name? Renee Zellweger or whatever.
Zellweger, yeah.
I think he's dating Elle McPherson now. So he's kind of really kind of like He's like doing his thing, man.
So have you seen him play yet?
So Trixter was in the UK, did a show in the UK in Nottingham in October 2016, and I heard that he was going to be playing a local place in Jersey on our return trip. So, like, I was going to land in JFK and then fly back to Arizona. I found out he was playing the next night, and I'm like, nope, I'm staying. And I'm going to go see that show because it's a club I've played before, and I'm going to go see this show, and I'm going to be up close and personal. I'm going to just, I'm going to sponge it up, man. So a buddy of mine says, hey, I'll get us in. I'll get us on the list. I was like, let's do it. So I had a bunch of my friends show up, watch the show, pictures, video, and he's going to do like a meet and greet after. So my younger sister was there, and I was like, take my phone, and when I'm talking to him, you just start snapping pictures.
Yep.
Start snapping away. Show ends. I walk up. It's finally my moment. I'm talking to him, and she's snapping away, and we're talking. He's like, you bring your own photographer? And I was like, don't mind her. So shook his hand, and, I was able to talk to him. Luckily, I was able to get some words out, but that was a guy. I was kind of like fanboyish. I got a ton of pictures of me and him. I don't think he signed anything for me. Maybe he did. I don't know. But I was like, that for me, that guy is still one of the coolest guys in the world. If you can check him out, he's got a lot of solo records. He's in the Steve McQueen video for Sheryl Crow. I think he co-wrote that song. He's in a lot of her live stuff. He's just a really cool, laid back cat. And he's got so much soul. And he plays great. Sings, he's up there chewing gum and playing. It's like, wow, man, this guy's so good. So yeah, for me, that was the ultimate. I mean, I've met a lot of rock guys, and I've got a lot of peers that are in big bands. But for me, that guy was like, he's deeply connected through Clapton, through Sheryl Crow, through the living at Stevie Ray Vaughan band house, and all those guys in Austin, Texas. There's such deep connections there. So for me, I had to do that. And I'm like, I got a piece of that somewhere. I know it's in there somewhere. So that was a great moment for me.
That's awesome.
Oh, Pete, I have to say, we said we'd limit it to an hour, so I guess we're going to have to close this soon. But next time you have a single come out, we're still going to find you, and I want to hear so many more stories from you.
Okay.
I love hearing them. This is amazing.
Perfect.
And I do want to say, I love your music. We've been listening to it and the new stuff that's coming out. We love it. Please don't have it be a long gap next time.
You got it.
I'm ready.
Appreciate that.
Maybe we're gonna keep bugging you to hear more because it's great. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
And
Thank
I do
you.
also have to say that you are a big part of our story in terms of Katya and I as well. And so to have you on the show means a lot to us. I thank Amy because, it's one of those where I don't want to ask for a favor, and we just connected on Instagram, and I love everything that she's putting out, and please tell her I said hi and thank you. But I was like,
I will. She's around the corner here somewhere.
Means a lot to us. And,
of course. Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay.
And until next time.
Bye now.
Bye.
Take care, Pete. Bye. Wow, Aim. I have to say thank you to Pete for coming on the show, talking with us. I had a great time. Not to mention, I have a new group of musicians and bands that I'm going to look into right away because I think that's going to be some great music to listen to.
Yeah, I agree. Musicians always have that eclectic taste, and, people that might not necessarily be mainstream, but are so, so good. So I'm super excited about all that he had to say in regards to that and everything else. So anyway, again, thanks, Pete, for coming on the show. As always, as we say our goodbyes, don't forget to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Leave us a comment, maybe your favorite part of something that Pete said. And absolutely loved what he said about Bonnie Raitt. She just made a beeline for those gentlemen there. That was so class. It was my favorite.
We may have done the same thing.
I know, right? When I almost said that to Pete. I was almost like, if you notice in Katya's picture with you, but as I fall off,
it's the redhead in all of us.
It is.
I get Bonnie. We get Bonnie.
Yeah, we. Yeah. There you go. She's rocking the life, right? All right. So, okay, that's so great. All right. So, check out our socials. Rock the Life Girl on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. We're on Facebook. We have a Facebook page at Rock the Life. And we have merch. So you can find our entire collection of merch at rtlmerch.com. That's exciting. And again, make sure you're following along to see who else we have on the show in the future. All right, Katya, this was
Amy,
so much fun.
Don't forget.
Rock the life.
Rock the life.
Oh my gosh, I love you. Bye.